Are you someone who finds it difficult to control their impulses? Are you someone who finds it difficult to manage their bad behaviors? And are you someone who finds it difficult to stay motivated to something? If yes, then this video is for you. Hi, I'm Sumedhan Ramesh, and in this video, I'm going to talk about how is it that you can self-regulate your bad behaviors and habits such that you can stay motivated to an action plan that you have created for yourself and make long-term improvements. So coming to what self-regulation means, you can look at it in two aspects, or the application of self-regulation is in two aspects of your life. The first one being emotional regulation and the second one being behavioral regulation. So emotional regulation means that you manage your impulses and you manage your emotional breakouts or your emotional tendencies to react to certain social situations or to certain scenarios, your daily scenarios, and you try to cool yourself down, or you try to change the emotions from negative or pessimistic to optimistic emotions, and you try to manage the vibe of a social situation, or you try to solve a problem accordingly. And behavioral regulation is you taking action in spite of the way you feel such that you can make long-term improvements. So some of the examples of behavioral regulation could be you trying to go to the gym, or you trying to take care of your health by playing a sport, even though you don't feel like going to the gym or going and playing because you are too tired of doing some other activity throughout the day. And that's just one example. You can consider other examples as well. And it all depends upon the person's scenarios and the type of problems that each person faces in their life. So emotional regulation and behavioral regulation, it, like I said, the definition of each of this regulation itself gives you guys an understanding of where is it that you can look at your willingness or your need to self-regulate based on your personal problems. And if you look at the one factor that I would suggest, or I would consider when it comes to self-regulating any bad behaviors, the only one factor that you guys would need, in my opinion, is intrinsic motivation. And what I mean by intrinsic motivation is your willingness deep down inside your gut, that willingness, that deep energy that enables you to push yourself outside your comfort zone, that tendency to stay restless to some problem that you have in your life, or your feeling of nervousness or your anxiety in trying to deal with the problem that you face in your life. That restlessness or that nervousness or that anxiety that you have deep down is what gives you that push to make changes to your personality or make changes to some problems that you have in your life. And that intrinsic motivation is what leads to certain changes or your tendency to take actions and thereby make long-term improvements. One of the consequences of having intrinsic motivation is belief, your ability to believe in yourself or your ability to improve your self-esteem. And usually what people say is that if you believe in yourself, you will be able to make long-term improvements. And I do agree with it. Your ability to believe, or to what extent you believe in yourself, is going to determine to what extent are you going to stay consistent to something and take the necessary actions. But there is a problem when it comes to believing in yourself, such that your tendency to believe in yourself depends upon whether it is authentic or not. So two types of beliefs. One is you faking it, and the other is where you are authentic to it. And if you look at your ability or your tendency to have fake beliefs, the reason as to why people have these fake beliefs in their mind, or this mantra that they keep saying over and over again that they can do it and they can push through this particular challenge, but it actually is fake. The reason is because you haven't taken the necessary actions to make the improvements. And because you haven't taken the necessary actions to make the improvements, you don't have any evidence to back off your belief. And because you don't have any evidence to back off your belief, you end up having a fake belief in your mind. So you keep lying to yourself. You keep saying, oh, I can do this, or I can push myself. But you know deep down that you're lying to yourself, and that deep gut that tells you that you are lying to yourself is going to push you, act as an obstacle, and it is going to demotivate you further down the road. But instead, if you have put a certain level of effort into improving, if you have put in the work, if you have a certain level of evidence, you will be able to reassure yourself that because you have done some work, because there is this evidence, you now believing in yourself based on this evidence is going to be more authentic in nature. No bitch talk in your mind or no obstacle, no excuse in your mind can come in the way of having or developing this authentic belief or developing this authentic self-esteem, simply because you have done some work and this evidence enables you to have this authentic self-belief. So you need to come to this place of having authentic self-belief. But how do you do it? Like I said, you do it by taking actions and having some evidence. But you do need to take actions in the first place, and you do need to have some evidence to develop this authentic self-belief. So your ability to develop this evidence or your ability to take action now rests on your intrinsic motivation, your restlessness and your feeling of nervousness and anxiety. So that is the one factor that you need to look into. You could also call intrinsic motivation as genuine desire, as in your genuine desire to make changes, your genuine desire to learn, your genuine desire to improve. If that genuine desire is there inside of you, you will be able to make changes and you will be able to stick with it long term. So before I give you guys a method or a plan that you can follow, a simple structure you can follow in order to improve your ability to self-regulate and stick to long-term plans, I want you guys to understand the difference between self-regulation and breaking bad habits or changing bad habits. Self-regulation is more than just changing bad habits. It is also about making nuanced tweaks to your personality. So what I mean by nuanced tweaks is that if you look at any daily activity that you take, and if you look at the problems that you have in the daily actions or the daily activities that you participate in, those problems, regardless of whether they're small or large, your ability to manage those problems is where you use self-regulation. Your ability to address those problems, come up with solutions, is where you use self-regulation. So I'll give you guys an example such that it becomes easier for you to understand what it means to differentiate self-regulation and making changes to your bad habits. So say there is a long-term plan that you have created for yourself and you are trying to take actions on a daily basis and you're making a decent level of progress. And eventually, now and then you distract yourself from this long-term plan. And when you do distract yourself from this long-term plan and when you do make mistakes, you start berating yourself or you start putting yourself down. You start talking to yourself, oh, why am I not able to stick to this? What is wrong with me? Why am I behaving in those type of manners in which I'm not supposed to based on this long-term action? And your tendency to berate yourself is so significant and so strong that you now crave for instant gratification. You now crave for this reward that you will get by taking bad actions and by sticking to your bad habits. So if you look at the problem here is more about you berating yourself and you putting yourself down. And so if you address that problem, if you address the problem of berating yourself and say in the long term, you look at that problem and instead of berating yourself, you shrug it off or you treat it as a joke and you just laugh it off or you smile at it, what tends to happen is that your tendency to laugh at it or your tendency to smile at your berating, your putting yourself down, is what is going to help you to develop your self-regulation behaviors. So the problem here being the root behind the distraction, not the distraction itself, not the actions that you take to distract yourself, but the underlying root behind the distraction. And if you're able to look at the underlying root behind the distraction and say, okay, it's not that big of a deal to berate myself, I'll just treat it as a light-hearted thing. That is when you'll be able to stick to a delayed gratification instead of craving for an instant gratification. And so when you are able to now stick to delayed gratification, you will start appreciating the process more and you will start appreciating the delayed gratification more as well. And so that is how you develop self-regulating tendencies or self-regulating skills. Your skill to self-regulate is not exactly changing the bad habit, but it is more so about changing the problems which you take on a daily basis. And so that is just one example. You can come up with multiple examples to this as well, like your tendency to eat. Eating is something that almost all of us participate in. And so if you look at what you eat, it is not exactly you consistently eating junk food. If that is the case, if you're someone who consistently eats junk food, that is a bad habit in and of itself. But if you're someone who occasionally eats junk food, that isn't exactly a bad habit. It is more so about you improving your self-regulating skills and minimizing it. So I hope you guys understood the example that I described. It's more so about making nuanced tweaks to your personality. And so it is the step after, or you could even consider it as a step before making changes to your bad habits. These nuanced tweaks are what enables you to appreciate the long-term process, and it is what gives you more authentic long-term results that you can also treat them as permanent solutions. So the method that you need to follow in order to develop your self-regulating skills is as follows. It is a 7-step process here. The first step is to receive information. So whether it be searching it on the internet or asking other people, you receive information and you look at the type of problems that you're solving, what problems you're solving. The second step is to evaluate the information. So now you look at the information and see whether it actually helps you. Now you look at the information and see what is it that you can throw off, what information is it that you can throw off, or the type of information that won't help you to make the necessary changes. The third thing is to make a change or to trigger a change. So now you have the information, you now push yourself and you trigger a change in your mindset. Instead of being lazy or instead of procrastinating, you now push yourself, whether it be you realizing that you need to push yourself or whether it be changing that to have that emotional tweak or that emotional trigger. You make that trigger and you make that initial step. You take that initial step. The fourth is to search for options. So now once you have made that trigger, you now search for options. So, okay, what are the actions that you can take? You can have multiple actions that you can take. You can choose multiple paths from the problem based on the problem that you are facing. The fifth is to make a plan. So now you look at all the options that you can take, all the options that you can pursue. Now you come up with a plan and you devise all the step-by-step actions you take. So that you can stick to a long-term action. So that plan is the long-term action, this long-term set of actions that you take. The sixth is implementing the plan. So now you implement the plan by taking the first few steps, the first 2 or 3 steps of the plan. You implement the plan for a short period of time. It could be a few weeks, it could be 1 month, it could be a few months. So you implement the plan. And finally, the 7th step is to assess the plan's effectiveness. So you look at the plan, you look at the actions that you've taken, you look at the rewards that you've got by taking the steps in the plan. Now you assess the plan's effectiveness. Now you look at whether this step number 2 or step number 3 needs to be taken, or you can make changes to the step, or you can completely get over the step and from step 1 directly jump to step 3, or from step 2 directly jump to step 4. So you assess the plan's effectiveness and you make changes to your plan accordingly. And so as you keep making changes to your plan, you can stick to this plan in the long term and make long-term improvements accordingly. So this is what self-regulation is about. It is more so about addressing your daily problems. It is more so about addressing daily actions and being able to stick to daily actions. And it's not more so about addressing your bad habits and making changes to your mindset or making changes to your perspective, which also is something that you might need to address if such is a scenario. So I hope you guys found value. I hope you guys found the solution that you're looking for in terms of trying to stay motivated to something, developing your self-regulation skills. If you found value, please comment below. If you believe someone else might benefit by watching this video, feel free to share this video with them. If you disagreed upon something that I said, or if you did not understand what I said in this video, please comment below that as well. And thank you for watching.